5 liedjes die alles over een persoon, of in dit geval een artiest, zeggen. 5 essential tracks, dit keer met Marius, a.k.a. Roosevelt. Marius, nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Was it a hard task to pick just 5 songs?
Yeah, it's always hard to pin it down. 5 is like quite a small selection. Yeah.
So did you pick tracks that maybe are a big influence on your most recent work, or tracks that gotten you into music?
Yeah, I try to mix it up a bit. I have some influences for the record, quite nerdy, but also just a recent track that I really like, and we listen in the bus quite a lot. So yeah.
Talk nerdy to me. Track number 1.
Track number 1 is Womack and Womack, Teardrops. So that's just like one of my favorite 80s tracks. I always like tracks that have like such a heartbreak lyrics like that track, but still feel like really euphoric. Mm-hmm. Like this kind of balance always like fascinated me. On Teardrops, it's just the saddest lyrics ever, with like the up-tempo disco track, and that's just something I really like. And the production is really amazing. It's like it has 70s disco vibes, but mixed with like a pop appeal of the 80s. So yeah, it's just one of my favorite tracks.
Is that something that might also go for your work? That they're happy, up vibe dance tunes, but when you dive into the lyrics, you might find yourself in a totally different world.
I mean, it's more often something that happens, and then I realize it happened. Like it's not something you can really plan. But I think in like all dance music, like I think good dance music always has like a sentimental element, and I never really liked music that's too much in one direction and that tells you how you should feel, and that like, well, you're a bit confused about like you want to dance but the lyrics are like tell you something else. Like I like even in clubs, like the most fascinating moments are when you're in the middle of the dance floor, everyone's having a good time, and like a lyric is hitting you like really hard, and you feel you just feel weird with the track, with the music.
So track number 2.
Track number 2, kind of the same area as Talking Heads. Couldn't really choose a track because I just like so much of them, but I chose a Once in a Lifetime.
Once in a lifetime, water flowing under. And you may ask yourself, how do I work this? And you may ask yourself, where is that large automobile?
Yeah, I mean it's such a classic, but I had to choose it.
With so many tracks to choose from Talking Heads, we could talk about this one specific track, but maybe talk about the incredible voice of David Byrne.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the special thing about him is that, about the whole band, is that they took like in 70s disco instrumentation, but really put in like a weird pop element that wasn't really there before, and he created a figure on stage which felt like not from Earth, like something weird and something strange. Like in the 80s, that kind of thing happened with pop music. Suddenly those characters happened, and David Byrne always fascinated me in that way. But I always liked that aspect of pop music, and that has been lost, I think, in the recent like charts music, that it's not really about authenticity, that it's just about like creating something like otherworldly. And that's, I think David Byrne and David Bowie are the best examples for that.
5 essential tracks starring Roosevelt, track number 3.
Track number 3, now we go more into like my teenage years, where I was in contact with music and also going to shows. And I was playing in an indie band back then, and I chose the track High on the Heels by Whitest Boy Alive.
High on the heels of an opening door, you run out.
There were like a few bands that that connected me with electronic music. There was LCD Sound System, there was stuff like Phoenix. There was also the time with like Justice and all that banger stuff. But yeah, Whitest Boy Alive was a band that also played a lot of festivals in Germany, and that we saw a lot, and I think I saw like 5 different shows of them, and they just really like introduced me to using synthesizers in like a band setup, which is something that was like really new to me, which is not a new thing at all, but
It was gone for a while.
yeah,
Synthesizers were a bad thing, like in
yeah, at
the
least
90s,
like a lot of
maybe.
people didn't really do it in a good way, and they just really have like that like rough sound of just using the synthesizer as an like rhythmical instrument. Yeah, I just saw them live and it blew my mind. Like I didn't know that those two worlds can be like mixed that well together.
Before you came to that realization, would you consider yourself more of like a band person or more into the dance vibey?
I mean, I was in more rock bands, indie rock bands with like a classic rock instrumentation.
No sense.
No, not really since, no. But I was aware of like techno music. Like I always went to Cologne to go out, and Cologne has quite a vivid electronic scene. But just there has been like SE Sound System also was like a big influence in that time. There just were these influences that like showed me how you can combine those two worlds and how you can create an dynamic live performance or a whole like record in that instrumentation with that club feeling. And for me, that time just was really inspiring. And that track just was like a personal favorite in that time. So
And it's something that you bring to the stage as well. When I first heard your songs, I had this picture of maybe a DJ set, but you just performed with a total live band.
yeah, I try to, in the live setting, I just try to bring some more energy than on the record. I try to focus on putting the energy in there and not trying to play it 100% like it is on the record. I think that's why people go to shows. Like they don't want to see the record 100% like they heard it already. They want to see like a live version of it, and that's why we like some people are surprised that it's quite a rock instrumentation or almost like it feel like when we're touring also with the gear, it feels more like a rock band touring than like a DJ or electronic set. Track number 4, now I want to show like more the clubby side that I was into during that time, and there were like a lot of compact things. I was into all those Compact Total, the compilations, Compact is a label in Cologne, electronic one. Those were a big influence, stuff like Justus Könke and like DJs from Cologne. But there's also like a huge like new disco scene, or how you want to call it, in Oslo. So all those guys, Prince Thomas, Lindstrom, Disc Jockey, Björn Torske. Yeah, suddenly I realized you can use like real drums on like a club production, really dry, dead disco drums, and that way how they produce really inspired me in that time to like create my own sound. And I chose Lindstrom, I Feel Space, which is like his anthem, I guess. So yeah, all those Prince Thomas Lindstrom remixes are just like it's like for me production-wise though has been like the biggest influence probably.
I can totally understand that you just started off by saying it's hard to pin it down to 5 tracks, but every single one you mentioned so far to me seems completely logical when I listen to your music, which leaves me very curious to find out what track number 5 is.
I try to move away a bit from like the direct influences and just choose something that I just listen to right now. And I think one of my favorite tracks from last year has been Frank Ocean, the track Ivy from his record.
If I could see the walls, I could see it faking. If you could see my thoughts, you would see your faces. Safe in my rental, like an army truck back then. We didn't give a fuck back then.
And yeah, I mean, it's maybe I feel so comfortable listening to it because it's quite far away from my music. Also those the Chance the Rapper album and the No Name album, I just listen to them all the time. And sometimes in the studio, it's good to like during you're working on something, it's good to listen to music that's not too close to your own music, because sometimes you get distracted a bit. So like when I'm coming home from the studio or like driving my bike home, I try to like change perspective a bit. So just the whole Frank Ocean album just is really amazing.
Rappers like Chance the Rapper, Kendrick Lamar, Anderson .Paak, they've been doing a lot of features on other people's records last year. Would that be something for a Roosevelt track?
Definitely on the second album, I have some ideas. I can't tell you much about it now, but there's some.
Do you have their numbers?
Some of them, not so much,
Okay.
I guess.
Oh well, that's a very nice start.
On the first album, I just wanted to do like kind of like a statement and my own first album, and it was important to me that that I recorded everything, produced everything. Just to create that kind of statement and to do like the first record on my own to see how much I can do on my own. And now that this is out, I have some ideas of working with other people.
Looking forward to it. Very intriguing.